So I've been thinking a lot about 57 kilograms since Final X on Saturday, where we saw Zane Richards take out Thomas Gilman in two straight matches. And thinking a lot, even more about the Olympic team trials coming up in 2024 and just how the state of 57 kilograms has drastically shifted over the last really couple months, I'll say. You go back to 2021 trials, and the talk was just this insane depth. Who was going to run this gauntlet and make the team at 57 kilograms? Around March of 2021, we were a month out, and we were thinking, is it going to be Spencer? Is it going to be Soriano? Is it going to be Gilman? Dayton Fix, Vito Arujau, right? Those were the names we were talking about. Now, fast forward a couple years, and I think the dynamics of 57 have drastically shifted, and now I'm honestly wondering, do we have a depth problem at this weight class? And I think what is really compounding things or making it more difficult and why we have a depth issue, one is weight class just matters, and the weight matters. And I think we're seeing some guys, some of the wrestlers, where the weight is really tough for them to make, and it's having a drastic impact on their performance. And I think that's what we saw and are seeing. And I don't think we will ever hear this from Thomas Gilman's mouth, but I think those around him know that 57 is a huge struggle. And I think we saw that on Saturday. And I remember at the weigh-in line at Final X, just looking at, they're all lined up, and Zane Richards and Thomas Gilman were lined up behind each other. And it was astounding how much, not just everyone knows Thomas is sort of tall, he was thicker, more muscular than Zane Richards. I was like, oh, the size disparity was insane. And we've all known that Thomas has had a difficult time with the weight cut. I mean, after his Olympic bronze medal in Japan, I'm interviewing him, and he says, hey, I may go up to 61. I may even spend some time at 65 kilograms for a little bit. Now, we haven't seen him at 65, but he has messed around a little at 61, which says to me that this cut is really having a detrimental impact on his performance. And I think that's what we saw a little bit at Final X in Newark, New Jersey. And so you think about the depth we had, right? We were talking about Spencer and Dayton and Vito and Nick Soriano along with Gilman, right? And then we were never talking about Zane Richards. And let's just go through the list and think about how things have changed and what our confidence levels now versus what they were in 2021, right? Spencer Lee has not been healthy since 2021. That situation was handled, maybe differently. If you could go back in time, you might handle that situation a little differently and get the surgery right away, but he didn't. And I think we're still seeing the impacts of that decision play out. And now the last two tournaments Spencer Lee has entered, he hasn't finished them. So you can't have but so much. It's all you can have with Spencer right now is cautious optimism, right? You can't think of him as a vital part of Team USA depth at 57 kilograms until he can show, and he's able to show himself he can complete a tournament, right? Nick Soriano is someone in 2021. He goes overseas and wins a tournament with two really tough Azeris, a tournament that had Thomas Gilman and Vito Arujau in it just months before World. He wins that, before Olympic trials that is. He wins that tournament and looks like he might be the guy. And then since that time, he tests positive for COVID. I've mentioned that. But I haven't seen the progression from Nick. And compounding that, this is a guy who changes NYC RTC. He's at Rutgers. He's at Michigan. He's at Arizona. He's back at Michigan. He's back at Arizona. Okay? I think there's something to be said for the continuity and training and being in one place. And that's something that Nick hasn't had, and that Nick hasn't given himself an opportunity in just a couple years with a similar coaching staff. And now we see he falls short against Zane Richards, someone who he had previously tech followed not once but twice. And Zane takes him out at the U.S. Open, right? So we're not seeing that trajectory that maybe we anticipated with Nick Soriano. All right, which sort of, if you think about Nick, and then you think about Zane Richards, this is a guy he went to Illinois. He was a All-American wrestler there. He stayed there. He's been training with Illinois. He's stuck with the program, stuck with Coach Medlin and company. And look at the progression that we've seen in her. There's something to be said for that. There's something to be said with staying in a place, sticking with a training program that you believe in, and look where it's gotten Zane at, I think, 29 years old. This is a guy who he wasn't an NCAA champion. He wasn't an NCAA finalist. He was all in the mix at 133, and now he's down at 57. And that was another interesting thing. Seeing those two, Gilman and Zane, stand next to each other and think the smaller one actually wrestled at 133 his entire collegiate career, and the bigger one was a career 25. So that stuck out as well. But my broader point with Zane is like, hats off to him for just staying the course, sticking with a plan, and executing. And now, you can say we don't have a lot of depth, but you got to feel pretty confident in Zane running the gauntlet he had to do to make this team. But let's continue. Okay, so we talked about Spencer. Hasn't been healthy. Hasn't finished his last two tournaments. Major question marks there. Nick Soriano, is he still progressing? We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen huge improvements there. Dayton Fix. We know his best weight is 61 kilograms, right? We know he's too big. He's probably too big for 125, 57 kilograms. And even Dayton's performances at 61 have waned a little bit, right? This is a world silver medalist in 2021, and he hasn't been able to make the team the last 2 years. He was in Final X last year, lost 2 matches. Then he wasn't able to even win the World Team Trials to make Final X this year. So his trajectory is not showing that he's going to be a huge contender and someone that can not only make the Olympic team but potentially win a medal there, because he's got to come back down to 57 kilograms, 125 pounds. You look at Dayton, he's not a small 133. And go back to my other point, weight class just matters. And I don't think 57 is the weight for Dayton Fix, just like our next guy. Vito Araujo is maybe the best example of how much weight class matters. A year ago, he lost to Pat Glory twice, right? Lost in the NCAA semis. He didn't make the NCAA finals. He makes it to Final X. He's tech fouled 2 times by Thomas Gilman at 57. These are not particularly competitive matches. He moves up to 133, where he became the talk of the NCAA tournament when he majored Dayton Fix, and he took out the reigning 2-time NCAA champion Roman Bravo Young, who to that point was undefeated on the year. And it's like, whoa, Vito 133, just a different animal, a different guy. And he looked incredible and became the most outstanding wrestler at 133. But then carry that on to the U.S. Open, where he teched everyone in the field except for Nishan Garrett, who he beat 9-2. This was a loaded weight. This had so much talent in it, and he steamrolled through everyone. Okay, then, so he makes it to Final X. Nishan Garrett, who steamrolled everyone but Vito, goes to World Team Trials. He dominates Dayton Fix. He dominates Austin DeSanto, Nishan Garrett. And then he goes to Final X, and Vito takes care of business against him. And now we're saying, whoa, Vito he looks so good. Well, yeah. You can't help it. I'm sure he's made some improvements from a technical perspective. He talks about raising his floor. But you can't tell me that weight class isn't also playing a factor here, right? I think it's had a huge impact. So now you have to say it. And he said in his interview, I'll come down to 57. There's no question about it at the Olympic trials. But I can't help but wonder. And it's so unfortunate that this is the decisions they have to make where, it used to be 60 kilograms was an Olympic weight class, and it was an incredible one. We had some of the best, saw some of the best talented. That's where the Kudukovs and the, we had Coleman Scott and Asgarov and all these legends wrestled at this weight class that just eliminated. And now these guys that are, there's not a lot of grown men that can comfortably get down to 125.5 pounds. But Vito basically has to, because he's not big enough for 65, which is 143.5 pounds. He's got to go down. So he's going to give it a shot. But I can't help but think it's not going to be comfortable. He's not going to be as productive. And so where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with a 57 kilograms where in 2021 we were like, doesn't matter who makes a team. We're going to be good. We got legends. We got Spencer. We got Dayton. We got Vito. We got Gilman, right? And we got Nick Soriano. We're going to be good here. To now, it's like, thank goodness we have Zane Richards, right? And congrats to Zane Richards on making the team. But you can't think anything but the depth at 57 kilograms is a concern for Team USA moving forward.